We are live. Okay.
Yeah, no preparation at all.
No, we didn't. We jumped right in. We do it live. Okay. So this week
Everything worked the first time.
yes, there were no mistakes at all, and I didn't say it in front of Kyle's daughter.
Totally can't hear you right now either.
You can't?
Oh.
Oh, you were
Hmm.
being sarcastic?
Oh yeah, she's right across the room. She's corrected me on this.
Kyle, I believe I have told you on multiple occasions that I'm the most available person you know. Okay, so this week we wanted to talk about Utilitybelt. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Let's see, I want to share this and make sure you guys can see it. So, can you see what I see? Wait, here we go. Now, can you see what I see? All right.
Yes.
Got head nods. So we are looking at the YOLO Threat Utility Belt project. And so I cheated a little bit. I did go ahead and look at this a little bit before we came in, but that's okay. I don't think it's going to ruin our
I
methodology.
may I may have seen it before as well.
So the Bearded Wonder Kyle here is one of the core contributors to this project. Is it pretty much just you and Scott that work on this, Kyle?
Yeah, pretty much. We got a patch from our buddy Mike Goffin recently, but it was a relatively small patch. But in fact, if you click on the contributors there, you should get a sense for that.
Yeah.
Wow. Look at that. Oh,
But
Jeff has contributed as well.
oh, it was Jeff. Okay, then maybe it was.
Oh man, Jeff, you really
I know. What a streak, huh? I'm
you
on a
got
roll.
dogged there though. I mean, your work was credited to McGoffin.
No,
Well,
McGoffin did make something for us. I don't remember. Maybe man, maybe I need a beer.
yeah, I can see I'm easily forgettable.
All right, so Kyle, where would you recommend that we start? I guess I would say probably here in Utility Belt and then looking at the actual file. Um,
Yeah. So
Ooh,
okay, so
SQR.
just for a little bit of background, the idea is this is just a collection of functions that we end up individually writing in most of our projects that we do. And so the idea was kind of let me just collect all of these together in one place so that I don't have to keep rewriting them. And then as time goes on and other things fit that, we just add them into here.
cool. Um, so Kyle, you were here for the first one we did that we didn't record, but what we kind of started working on methodology for how we would go about looking at new code and stuff. And so one of the things that we looked at first is just what gets imported. So looking at line 14, for example, I wonder if I should make this a little bit bigger so that the people who watch this video later can read it more easily. Oh, here was a question that came up for me when I looked at this. The ASCII art up here, is there like some website you use to make that?
That's important.
It's an old Unix utility that's in like every certainly Linux and probably Mac distro ever called Figlet, like Piglet but with an F.
Do not have that on Mac. I wonder if it's available if I brew install it.
Homebrew. Yeah, let's see.
Brew install Figlet. Let's see, Homebrew is not sure what. Oh, it looks like I'm getting it. Oh, sweet. I feel bad for you guys now. There's a lot of ASCII art in your future. Okay, so having moved beyond that, so we're importing regular expression, that's the RE. Import socket, so I presume that we're going to be communicating with some type of TCP port or something out there.
Something like that.
Something like that, okay. XML tree, element tree thing. So it looks like we're going to parse a little XML. Lucky us. PyGeoIP. I'm just going to guess. I've never seen this before, but I'm guessing that has to do with geolocation of IP addresses.
You're brilliant.
I know. Requests that that super sweet utility for again more. Well, that's actually request is just for downloading stuff, right? Yes. So we're going to use
Right,
request to
it is for making requests, not servicing requests.
yes, and then BS4 is what we're going to use to actually parse the stuff that we get back. Um, so I guess one of the first questions I have looking here is Beautiful Soup not able to do the same things that Element Tree does?
Beautiful Soup cannot do exactly the same things. You could probably use Beautiful Stone Soup, which comes in it, but I have not messed with it some. However, if you know of a way to replace when you see what we did with it, we would happily accept your pull request.
Holy crap, I just used Figlet on my own machine here, and that's awesome. Okay. So then from NetADDR, I'm not familiar with that library either, but this seems like IP address is a class, I take it? IP network a class, IP range?
And so you could probably guess what NetAdder means from that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually saw you sending a pull request to this project. I don't. We're using that on Combine as well.
And they finally today accepted my pull request, which means I'm gonna have to make a change in Utilitybelt now that once it's available in the full PyPy upstream version.
So that takes us through the imports, and then what we had done in the past then is we'd gone directly to the main loop if there was one. And actually, does this one even have?
This one does not have a main loop
does
because
not have a main.
It's a library.
Right. So the next thing, though, and this is something that, Kyle, I really want to take a moment to pat you on the back about, is that if we go into Utilitybelt, see this folder here called tests? The people who have contributed code to this project have actually done testing, and it's just thank you, Kyle. You're a wonderful man.
I want to point out a point of pride, and I accept and welcome your praise there. Go back to the top of the tree where it renders readme.md.
Okay. Just a second here. I gotta
scroll down.
Scroll down. Okay.
Oh, look at that little dashboard there. I want to point something out there. What do you see in the third box?
Oh, 100% coverage. It's beautiful.
Oh my God.
That's incredible, Kyle. This is just this right here. This is something to truly be proud of yourself over, man. And Scott too, I suppose. But since Scott didn't show up for the hangout, I'm not going to pat him on the back.
You should, though, because he's responsible for the lion's share of the tests, to be fair.
So when we get into testing, one of the questions I have is, you guys went with Circle CI as opposed to Travis CI. Was there any particular reason why? Or was it just, here's one?
Yes, there are a couple of reasons. One, we originally were on Travis, but switched over to Circle, partly because Circle was cheaper for private repos, which this one is not, but some of our other projects are. And then in addition to that, it's faster. It's a lot faster for me, anyway, than Travis. I don't know if it's because it's smarter about caching. I guess that's kind of what it is, but in any case, that was the thing, was that it was faster and cheaper, and I so far haven't found where it's not better, so maybe you can get all three.
Wow. Okay, cool.
Now, that's not to dog on Travis, at all, right? It just, for our needs, Circle fit really well. And now that said, Travis has a lot more integrations because everybody uses it. And so right now it's probably a better choice for folks who want to plug into a lot of different things. But the only real integrations that we have right now, as far as testing goes, are coveralls, and I got that to work. And what coveralls does is kind of render and track, more importantly, over time, your code coverage.
That was actually going to be my next question for you, is how is what you were using to figure out the code coverage.
Okay, so if you look at the command there, you have two commands, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have py.test dash dash cov, which tells you to measure the coverage of the utility belt module, or package rather,
Okay.
and then it tells you the name of the testing script to run. Then you run coveralls, which grabs the test results and metadata and so forth and ships that off to coveralls.io. But the main test command, you use the dash dash cov to measure the full coverage.
Cool. So I wanted to actually go through the tests, and the reason that I wanted to do that was because, as you guys who talk to me every day know, I have been reading Practical Object-Oriented Design in Ruby is the book that I actually just finished it last night, but that's been my latest read. And one of the things that the author talks about in there is testing. And she talks about how your tests actually are the documentation for your for your classes or whatever or whatever it is that you've written.
Yeah, to be
And
fair,
so
in this case, it's not classes, but the point still stands, I think.
the point still stands that if I want to know what the heck am I supposed to do with the is IPv4 address, if I've got a developer who's actually written tests, I mean, you can see in front of me here, I have one, two, three, four,
A lot of
five
examples.
examples
Yeah.
of how to run that, of how to use that particular
And
method, I mean, and what I should expect to get back.
I'm curious what you infer about a given method, about any of these methods in particular, I mean, because there's a logic to how it. I'm curious how you, what you think as you see it, how you process that and infer the logic.
Well, so, and this is, of course, just from reading the names, but I'm seeing if it's saying is IPv4 address and it's returning a Boolean, it's almost like you're just asking a question. Hey, is this an IPv4 address or not?
Right. So in each test, the first assertion is making sure we return the correct type.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, it's to your point about test as documentation that immediately tells you, okay, this returns a bool, and then here are two examples that should return true and two that should return false. Not that we always have two of each. I don't know why we have two of each on terms of the true, but obviously in the false there's a reason for that.
Yeah, I don't know why you did two of them in the trues, but whatever. I think I like that you've got something that looks like it could be an IP address. Some of the tests that I would maybe add to this, if I felt like adding tests to it or something like that, is I might throw something that's got 4 octets,
But yeah, a larger number. Yeah.
yeah, but something that wouldn't be valid or something like, here's an IP address that starts with 257.0.0.1 or something like that, and see if that returns or not. But
Yeah, or like one thing that wasn't clear to me when I looked at this is whether CIDR mask addresses were accepted or not. Because like in the native NetAddra implementation,
Good
you
point.
can send it CIDR mask like /32/24 kind of stuff, and it'll recognize it. So maybe something to expand upon.
okay. Then we go into our geolocation test. Now we're getting stuff that's returning dictionaries, so that's cool. And it looks like you pass an IP address to it as a string, and then it will return some type of dictionary that has at least these 3 fields to it. This is just, I mean, these are great tests, in my opinion. Now, keep in mind, I'm hardly a master of testing, but as I read this, I feel like, hey, I really know how to use Utilitybelt because I've read the tests. I don't even need to look at your code to know how to use the tool, so that's awesome.
Yeah, it's good, very good.
Yeah. So how does the domain to geo thing work? Do you resolve it to an IP address, and then you do the geolocation? What do you do?
Well, I suppose we could probably go on and look at that, because I mean,
Imagine that.
we've got the code. We can,
Okay, we can do that. I
but
didn't know.
before we do, I am curious what's going on here on lines 38 and 39, because it looks like the only thing we're asserting is that we get a dictionary back, but I mean, you didn't test anything else there. Actually, the same thing goes for the next test as well. So
Yeah, I'm not sure on the GeoJSON stuff. I'm making a note here.
Mhm.
And IP like testing.
The GeoJSON, I think, is to generate a specific JSON structure
Right,
for
it's a
the
particular
volume.
standard, but why are we
Yeah.
not testing for more than the type of the result? I don't know.
Oh, I see. The dictionary. Yeah.
By the way, you probably can't see, but I just um, branched and added a test for 256.1.1.1, which, as we all know, is not a valid IP address,
Okay.
and and that test actually passed. So, whew, I was actually nervous. I was like, I can't remember if we did that the right way or not.
You could take all the IP addresses from CSI Cyber and make your own tests out of there. You should make them show up red if they're malware, and then green
Yeah,
if they're
you
really
can't see
good.
that branch because you loaded the page before I created the branch.
Oh, well, here, watch me do this. Okay, and then test improvement. Oh, yeah. And there it is. There's Kyle's new test right there.
Wow.
And it's
Just
passing
like
the.
it's on
And
the
now, yeah,
internet or something.
if you go to either the branches or pull requests page, you're gonna see where it's got a happy green check mark. Look, test
Yes.
improvement.
Oh, that's beautiful.
See, we do have a pull request from M. Goffin. I wasn't totally wrong. I just forgot about Jeff's contribution.
You just, yeah.
You just forgot about Dre. Okay, we're going to stick on master, though. Even though I really appreciate that, let's stay on master. So we've looked at, we didn't go through all the tests, but I don't think that we need to. There were a couple other places where I felt like maybe there were some redundancies in the tests and stuff like that.
There is okay, so if you go back up to the
Okay,
is reserved.
well, hang on.
Okay,
Because
sorry, go ahead.
I was talking about like redundancies, for example. So here we assert that the reverse DNS of this is not equal to GitHub. I thought there was a place where we checked this. Yeah, okay. Assert not equal. So we're asserting all these are not equal. Okay, never mind. So what
And
should
the reason I don't know specifically because I didn't write that one, but it looks to me like the reason is that it's supposed to return a list. So even though the reverse DNS of that address is GitHub.com, GitHub.com is not in a list, and so it shouldn't show up.
Right. So it's redundant, I felt like, because if the first test is saying give me a list, then this is automatically like
You agree. I
already.
agree.
That's probably true.
I agree.
And
What
the
if-
same thing here, if I assert that my answer comes back as this list here, then it, you understand that these are mutually exclusive, so it can't be.
Yeah, we could probably use a different address there and make sure that that is not some other domain.
Mhm.
It's worth. We can think about it. Yep.
Yeah, because I kind of feel like the first two pretty much make the other three redundant. You could even make the case that this middle one here makes the rest of them all redundant, but I do like the type checking that you're doing there, even though I'm
Yeah.
sure some Python enthusiast would tell me you never ever type check or something, but I
think as the idea is that all, and I could be wrong on this, but I believe assert is instance will still succeed as long as it's a what subclass or whatever of list. So if you had some special super duper list that extended this functionality, that should still return true. We don't currently, but in the way that ordered dict and sorted dict are derived from just plain old dict,
Mm-hmm.
I believe that it should still return correct in that fashion.
Oh, I like that because it tells you what to expect. Like I should always get a list.
Mhm.
Yeah. So even if it is redundant, I would leave it in just because of the documentation value that it provides.
I think it probably also grew out of some excessively pedantic test-driven development.
More tests, more money.
Can you
Like
go
a
to
bonus? The more
the,
tests I create.
Can you go to the main file again? I just wanted to. I actually had a look about the domain to geo thing.
Kyle wanted to tell us though about this.
Okay,
All these
just
reserved
just
IPs.
very quickly.
Okay, go ahead.
The pull request that got accepted to NetAdder is because they were missing some ranges from the RFCs on reserved ranges. So we had to. That's why we have is reserved. That's part of why anyway, is because we had to put in our own logic to document them, and so I was testing all of those.
Oh, cool.
That is actually a full examples from all of the reserved ranges, but I wouldn't rely on that as documentation, obviously.
Right. Okay. Fantastic. Now, if there's nothing else in test, then we'll head on over to main. So let's head on over here. Real quick, the init.py is empty, and we have to have this init.py because we want Utilitybelt to be something that you can do an import on. So here we are in main, and what was it you wanted me to look at,
No, it's just
Alex?
that I realized that the question I was asking about the how is it figuring out that GitHub is actually in California, in San Francisco. There's an actual function in the PyGeoIP function. There's the class, I mean, which does this conversion. The reason why I was bothered by it is because if you give it a domain name, it could be resolving to any number of IP addresses that could have different geolocations. So which one is the right one? Which one is it supposed to return, right? But this is not a question for Kyle or Scott. This is a question for the PyGeoIP implementation, really, because it has a function there. If you just scroll down to line 152, you'll see what I mean. You see? The IP to geo and the domain to geo, it's just passing it straight through to the object, the PyGeoIP object. So
Okay.
I still don't know what the answer is.
That was something that I'd wondered about as well. If you did that to a website or something that is very distributed, yeah, what you would get back. Hopping up here to the top, you've got some vicious-looking regular expressions. Please tell me you didn't have to write those yourself.
Yes, we did. Not only did we write them ourselves,
Oh.
well, sort of. Okay, IPv4 we stole from somebody. Don't know that one. I can't remember if I stole from somebody or if I wrote it myself.
Yeah.
Basically, as much as possible, we tried to be as exact and correct as we can. Now, FQDN is currently that one is currently not. It'll
Yeah,
grab
it's
pretty
not good
much
job.
any string of characters that kind of looks like a domain name, but we're currently not validating the TLD, and that's something we intend to do real soon now.
Yeah, tilde extract is good for that.
Yeah, we just haven't
But
got been.
I see you're doing it right because it has a maximum of 255 uh, characters, and each word can have a maximum of 63. I actually have validating functions for that in some of the code that I wrote as well.
It's funny how that works.
Yeah.
And then you got your hashes and your file types and
I
stuff.
just wanted to point out, I'm not sure if you caught that bug, but in about 85 years, you're going to have some trouble with your CVE regular expression. So just make
Yeah,
sure whomever maintains it is aware of that.
yeah. So we talked about that actually, and I wanted to
Did
make
you?
it longer. I think, and I think this was the compromise. As far as I'm concerned, I thought that you could just drop that where there's the 7 in that one on line 31.
Hmm.
You can just drop that complete, just as long as it's at a minimum of 4
Yeah, you're
digits
right.
and as many digits as you wanted. But open-ended regexes make Scott nervous. By the way, I just went and looked at the source code for PyGeoIP,
Hmm.
and yeah, it does a get host by name on the host name and then returns the geolocation for that address.
So it's like the first address that comes up.
Yeah,
First,
whatever happens to get returned that time.
Yay.
Okay. Okay.
Which is interesting because I think you should instead do it based on the region where the domain, with the who is record is associated with. That's
yeah.
another thing.
That's a whole different thing. Which
So that
you
may
actually makes sense. What you said actually makes a lot of sense.
so
But
that may be a an issue you might want to open or something on here and fix at another time. Is have you know since you're basically passing it straight through, what if you did that whois lookup and then instead just passed an IP address over to geo and basically like hijacked the name to geolocation so it did it Kyle's way.
Yeah, making a note here. And
Yeah,
I'm avoiding an issue. Yay!
Yay!
I'm gonna
Yay.
pump up my contribution graph.
there you go.
I might submit a PR for that just because I haven't. The last PR I submitted was earlier this week, and it was a documentation change, and so I feel kind of.
You feel bad.
No, I don't actually, because it was just so badly needed. But
Yeah, I don't want. I'm having a hard time not pushing code lately. It's so much stuff to do in the stuff that I'm doing here. I was today was a bit crazy. I was counting today. There was actually 5 deployments to production today. It's
That's good.
just insane. Yeah. No, I feel good about it, but
Good. Yeah.
So IP too long and IP between are legacy. They were in there when we used to do it the hard way before we started using the NetAdder library, and
mhm.
so
okay,
instead of just removing them, we went ahead and kept them in there.
okay. But I mean, they're tested, so.
Yep, yeah, they work.
So then we get into things like IP between and stuff like that is a different function in here somewhere, but
Yeah, you just passed it.
did I? Oh, there it is. IP between. See if an IP is between the start and finish. So if is IP address, yes, and is IP address start and also is a finish, okay, then return if it is in that range. Otherwise return false.
We could probably return an error or throw an exception or something if they're not valid addresses. But
Why are we, I guess I'm wondering on line 78, if it's not in the range, wouldn't that return false right there?
yeah,
Oh,
but
no,
look
no,
at
I see, I see. I got my indenting. I was parsing it wrong. Okay. All right, cool. So then we just, okay. If it's in those ranges, I mean, this is all pretty self-explanatory. The code is actually real nice and simple.
It is. It's very well. It's very clear. It's very easy to read.
Mhm.
I want to rewrite it all in Go now.
But why?
That's a topic for another broadcast.
Well, we'll soon be having Go poetry reading, I guess.
They need to come up with something with different alliteration though, because Python poetry they both start with P. So I don't know what the Go if we start having a Go.
Go grab bag.
Go. Oh my
I have some
gosh.
ideas, but anyway, keep going, keep going.
Okay.
My boss is going to be getting here soon, and
He
yeah.
doesn't want to say go goatsy.
Oh yeah.
Oh no, no.
The Go Goatsy viewing. Okay. Let's see. So yeah, is it an IPv4 address? Return a bool if whether it matches in that. Okay. Um. Interesting. Well, I thought there was a regular expression. I thought there was an RE thing that would just return the bool, so you wouldn't have to wrap this in a bool.
There is that. It's just being extra sure. Hang on, I've got to go off for a second.
Okay. We have lost Kyle.
Oh,
Okay, so they wrapped it in a bool just because they wanted to be extra sure that a bool is always what gets returned.
Sometimes you got to double wrap it. That's all I have to say.
Oh, boo. Okay. But then it's interesting because up here you double wrap it, but then down here apparently you were okay with single wrapping it. So
oh.
That was probably. I think that Scott wrote the other is functions, and I wrote the is fqdn, and probably didn't follow his lead sufficiently. That's a good catch, actually.
Work.
just leave it, and that'll be my pull request to improve this this code.
You see, guys, the sun just came out. This is so amazing.
Oh God, I don't know. Okay, so yeah, all the is functions here. we already discussed that this one is just passing it through, and Kyle was going to add a to-do item that maybe they should do the IP lookup before they, instead of just passing it straight through. IP to GeoJSON. Okay, so now we get to finally find out what that is. So it takes the geo, it runs IP to geo, which should return a dictionary, if I remember from the tests right.
Yeah.
And then it looks like they're building up a JSON, or well, they're building up a dictionary here. Type is feature collection, and then in the features we have this stuff, and then finally at the geometry, the latitude and the longitude, and then we return the point.
Yeah,
So,
which is interesting because I would expect it to actually return JSON instead of a dictionary like it's doing.
yeah, you're right, because it's not returning JSON, it's returning a dictionary.
That's
Right.
true. That is true. There's another issue you can file.
Yeah, I guess so, right?
Can I file that? github.com/YOLO threat utilitybelt. All right, this will be my open source contribution for today. New issue is that
IP to JSON does
geo-
not return a JSON.
JSON,
That's
yeah.
very passive aggressive, a very
Yeah.
passive aggressive issue.
And you're
The
gonna
only
need
way
to-
to respond to an issue like that is I welcome your pull request.
Yeah, exactly, right. Import JSON, and then at the very end, just go JSON dump as points.
yeah, JSON dumps.
Yeah, right. You're done.
Okay, but what I actually do want to ask about is this structure here does not appear random. It almost looks like you're following something that something else is expecting. Like, why do you? So, what were you trying to do here?
GeoJSON is an existing standard.
Is it okay?
Okay. I didn't want to say that. I think they're building an attack map. This is why they're doing this.
Oh my god.
I actually no, well, okay. I don't know if it's an attack map or not. I know that GeoJSON in general is rendered directly in GitHub. So if you have GeoJSON, a GeoJSON file, and you go view the file, it'll render it like in a nice little map.
No way.
Oh, that's cool.
Whether this was when I came on board with the project, it was existing logic. We've never talked about it, so I don't know if he's using this to build a
Oh, I see.
file ID Viking map or not.
If you wanted to have a web page and you wanted to like print the map, this would definitely be helpful. Yeah.
Yeah.
I should have used this today, except I hadn't read this code, but I was just doing some malware analysis today, actually. Yes, it's my second week on the new job, and I've done more malware analysis now for Heroku than I did in the 3 years at my previous employer. So.
Nice. So you create a little map, and then you go on vacation. Is that the deal?
That's what I do. I'll make a map and then go on vacation. No, what had happened is somebody created an app in Heroku that was being used as the C2 for some piece of malware, and somebody reported it to us and everything. But at the same time, I was like, oh, cool, because finally I'm actually on the C2, so I can actually see the logs of all the IP addresses that were reaching out and hitting the C2 and stuff. So I was like,
Hey, look, you got a notification in your issue tab.
oh, no way. Let me have a look. He welcomes my PR. Thank you, Kyle. All right. So this is going to do the same thing, basically. We can skip that. Reverse DNS SNA. Learns a list.
Yeah.
SNA.
Returns a list of DNS names that point to a given IP address using StatDNS API. Oh, okay, cool. So this is where we start using requests. So we're going to request.get. You're building up a string here. Okay.
Yeah, I'm unfamiliar with this service.
Yeah, they've got a ton of little of nice DNS APIs. Why you would do it that way instead of what you see in the next function, I'm not really sure, but okay.
Okay. So, well, how do you do it in the next function here? Oh, okay. So you do a request for that, and then if it comes back with a 200, then names is just an empty array. And then for item in r.json, r.json is that? See, I'm
It's the
not that
J.
familiar with
Okay, with
requests.
the JSON method from a request object parses the request text as if it were JSON and returns the corresponding Python data structure. It's
Oh
not
yeah.
supposed to return JSON. This one, unlike the other one, actually is supposed to parse JSON and return a data structure.
So when you run r.json, it basically turns it into a dictionary, and then you're grabbing the answer section, which must be some type of list. And then you convert the R data into a string, and you append that onto the names array. Okay. And when
Yeah.
it's all said and done, you return the names. And if you did not get a 200, so if your status code was something other than 200, then you look in that r.json code, and if it's a 503, you return none. But if it's not a 503,
You're just dead. Right?
then
Well, if
nothing
not dead, then you
happens.
need to catch then it's going to raise an exception that you should catch in your application.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Because you may need to do something based on that. You need to retry the request later, or you have an API problem, or whatever. That's a higher abstraction.
See, I guess I would think that maybe this function would raise the error.
No, it'll
Yeah.
get.
Yeah, I would think
Oh
it
no,
would
I
raise
guess
something.
because so
That's a
what
good
does happen?
question. I'm not sure, actually. That's a good question.
It should raise something or return an empty list, one of the two, right? You're returning a list or returning none is kind of
Yeah, we should do something there.
hmm
I'm making a new issue for that as well.
Oh man, we're gonna be now. If I can just like submit some pull requests from the cruise ship.
you should plot out your pull request plan, like to be in exotic places at every point in time, and at
Yes.
30,000
You
feet,
should
here's my
always
pull request.
you should
Yeah, just
always
do a
submit
git
a
pull and
picture.
push every time you're in port.
Yeah, there you go.
That's great. I'm sure my wife would love if we're on vacation and I am pulling out my laptop and
Yeah.
writing code. Which is a great time to plug Python Cruise. What's it called? PyCruise? Oh my
PyCruise.
gosh. Oh,
Next
I'm so
year,
doing that next year.
from New York to Nova Scotia.
Oh, really?
No, yeah, but it's in June, and actually, so I mentioned that to my wife because I was like, "Yeah, the ports aren't so great," and she's like, "No, Kevin, those are great ports." I'm like, "Really?" She's like, "Oh my gosh, there's so much interesting stuff to do there. They're beautiful places. It's a great time of year." My wife kind of turned travel agent on me, and
Wait, did it sound like your wife just gave you the go-ahead for a Python cruise next year?
if I can convince my employer to pay for it, then
Ah.
yes.
Well,
But that's
even if
always the
not,
challenge.
Evangelists. They need evangelists.
if you take a cruise anyway every summer, why not make that your cruise?
Well, she doesn't want to go with for that.
Oh, maybe I'll be your
Yeah.
postman.
That would be awesome, dude.
We'll see.
Totes. We can.
So now we
Yeah.
get to stuff that's totally different in the code.
Okay, so what are we looking at now? We're looking at reverse DNS, and here you just do a get host by address and reverse it. Put your thing down, flip it, and reverse it. VTIP chat. Ooh, check virus total for occurrences of an IP address. Booyah. And what are we doing here? We're scraping virus total.
No,
Oh,
we are not
we're
scraping. We are
not scraping. You got to have an API to send in. Okay, cool. Was this covered in tests? I mean, it was obviously because
It was. There is extensive testing for the virus total functions, sir.
how do you do that when you? I mean, because you don't have an API. I pray to the saints you don't have an API hard coded in your app somewhere. So how are you testing that?
You should try to find a way to answer that question.
You know what I'll do is I'll
Only
come.
you could keep. If only you had a way to keep the tests in one tab and the code in another tab.
God, why do I like you again? Like, why do I talk to you? I forget. Okay,
Because I'm
so
smarter than you. That's why.
that's true. That's
Oh,
probably
we
it.
lost.
Okay.
We lost the Jeff.
Did we? Oh, Buhaisa. Okay.
Man,
So,
his internet connection is terrible. He's always dropping off. This is
okay.
like in my move to Portland board, this is definitely a minus.
Wow.
I don't have a move to Portland board, but my
Oh,
wife.
you're pulling it out of environment variables.
Yep.
Now, this is an important point for doing continuous integration with an external test like Travis or Circle in our case is
Yeah,
in
that was my next
in
question.
all of those, they have explicit support to, within their UI, set environment variables for things like API keys and other things that you don't want in the repo that you need available to the test, so that it's for this exact thing. So Circle has a copy of my API key, or at least one of my API keys, um, that is in an environment variable called VTAPI. So when it runs the test, that environment variable is available to my tests, but anyone going to the repo or even going uh, to the pages for this repository at Circle CI, unless you're an administrator of the project, you can't see the API key.
Ah,
So
perfect.
it's for exactly this thing. So we just use the OS environ data structure.
I love it. That's fantastic. That's how Heroku does a lot of stuff too, by the way.
It's
Just
funny how that
yeah.
works.
It's almost like this was a good idea, and so people start copying it.
Yeah, it's almost like environment variables exist for a reason.
Almost. It's almost as if, but you wouldn't know it from looking at a lot of the stuff in GitHub. Okay. So that's how we're doing the IP checks, and then you're just yeah. So you're not scraping. You're doing a legit request. Um,
For these methods, yes.
okay. So later on, I'm gonna see because one of the things I was wondering is up near the top here you have a user agent set, and when I see somebody set a user agent, that tells me that they're going to be trying to grab content from somebody that blocks the default user agent. So that's what I'm thinking I'm going to see at some point in here.
Well, I don't know if the place where we use it actually blocks, but we decided to be safe.
Okay. IP info. Okay.
IP info, honestly, that returns some of the same stuff we already get. So it returns like geolocation stuff and a few other really basic things like that.
Okay. So yeah, here in IP void, this is where you actually are setting headers, the user agent to be that, and then so when you make your response request here, instead of just using request.get and the URL, you're actually saying I want my headers to include this user agent here. So that's how it's done. And I don't think we really need to. Well, actually, this is the first place where you're using Beautiful Soup too. So why don't we actually take a little more look at this? So then the text that you get back from response gets fed into Beautiful Soup, and that creates a variable called data. And then in there, you're looking for all occurrences of a span that has this class label success.
If it's label success, then we know it was good, and we don't have to do any additional checking.
But if it comes back as labeled danger at all, then we know that there was something in there. Okay. Jeff is back.
Yeah.
Yay!
How about the internet, huh?
Yeah. You're making us all want to move to Portland.
We have awesome connectivity. As long as it's not raining.
In Portland, yeah.
Because it never rains in Portland, I hear.
Never.
Never.
So
Yeah.
then what we do, if we find that label danger, is we go find any alerts, we navigate over to the text that tells us what site alerted on it,
Okay.
and basically what we're doing is we're pulling out a list of all the sites or basically open sources that say this IP address is bad.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Label danger, danger, label danger.
I can tell that different people wrote these pieces though, because if I look up here in IP void, you build up your URL using the percent sign thingy, whereas down here you build up the URL using the newer and more accepted way of building up a string.
No, the same person wrote them. That person just wrote them at very different times, and therefore did not follow the same style.
That's
Ah,
If only we had a blame functionality.
If only there was some way to test that. We don't need to do that. We can keep going.
we don't need to assign blame because it's all Kyle's fault anyway.
so I think this is interesting though. Is URLvoid.com just completely different from IPvoid.com? Like why
No,
is it?
Yes,
it's the
it
same
is.
people. It's just they only have an API for checking domains, which they call URLs for some reason.
Correct.
So we're using the API wherever it's possible, and as they make more API endpoints available, I will happily switch over to that.
So URL void here pretty much going to be doing the same thing that IP void did, so we probably don't need to go through that. And then dshield, pretty much.
Oh, that's what Mr. Jeff submitted.
Yes.
That's what it was. And I want to give him 2 pieces of credit since I forgot him earlier. I need to make it up. A, he used something. He used the new format string functionality. I will probably do a slight refactor there later because I like to use named parameters in those, but that's just a minor issue. And he submitted a test with the new function.
Yeah, how about that?
Wow.
Even though
Let's
I
all-
It's good because it was not going to get merged until it did because I got to protect my 100%.
I just wish
I
you were
sense
that
that.
protective with some other like projects that you contribute to.
Man, some of these other projects are a landmine of political considerations.
You think so?
Whereas this one, I can, within reason, do just about whatever I want, and nobody else will say that. I mean, I have to share that benevolent dictatorship, but I don't have to worry about other people, not other people's feelings, other than the benevolent dictator getting hurt.
Yeah, you'll find that he's a very nice guy. You shouldn't worry about that.
The benevolent dictator on this other project is fine. It's all the other people who contribute code to it. I don't want to hurt their feelings.
Well, who cares?
But that's the thing, though, is we need to find more of the projects where some feelings could be hurt. I mean, this was a great one to read through, but at the same time, I feel like there's not a whole lot of what the French going on in here.
Okay, now it's just me and my
Oh,
wife.
just wait until you get to Combine.
Oh,
Okay.
and to be fair, I mean, I will be the first to say that when we get to Combine, a lot of those "where's the food" moments, as my daughter calls them, the WTF moments, a lot of them will come from my code.
Okay,
No
great.
question about- I mean, I'm not even going to.
It's just likelihood, right? You wrote most of it. So.
I wrote, so statistically, it's likely, and also I wrote it last year.
Under duress.
Well, also, so 2 things. I mean, Utilitybelt, this is code that I've written and Scott has written after we learned lessons on projects we did last year, because it's newer code, right? So you expect it to be better and more mature code. It's also less complex. And, well, okay, the less complex is actually a big part of it, because as we'll see when we do this, Utilitybelt just provides some functions that eventually will pull into Combine. We have a few things that Alex and I need to negotiate first, but there will be, I don't foresee any major problems there.
It's done. Just check.
Yeah, because it's the licensing fits and all of that. You just, yeah.
We welcome your pull request.
The thing, though, is that a lot of that code, okay, so Combine, most of it was written in advance of a presentation, whereas this was written just as we've needed functions, we just put them in there. So it's interesting to me the difference in the code that I write when I just, hey, I need a tool to do X versus, oh my God, I've only got 3 months until DEF CON. No sleep till Vegas. But yeah, when you get back from your sailing the salty seas, I look forward to reviewing Combine over this. It'll take a couple of weeks. It's a much bigger
Yeah,
project.
we're probably gonna we probably should slice it in half, like the first 2 parts and then the second 2 parts.
Maybe more.
Maybe more, right?
It might be. We might want to.
Oh,
It might take 3. The way I'm envisioning it, it might take 3. We'll get to that.
I like it.
So, if anybody else watching this or participating, certainly in our little session here, but if anybody else who watches this later, Utilitybelt is open source, and even though a lot of the stuff that it does is basic, the reason that it wraps some of the other APIs is so that we can change the underlying APIs without having to change the abstractions in your code. So if we change later on how we calculate geolocation, we use a different library, it shouldn't require any changes in your application. So it's middleware.
It's really that you're trying to get yellow thread into everybody's requirements.txt file. I know you're.
Well, yeah, the only bad part of it is that the name of the project doesn't actually say YOLO thread. And actually, this is one of the complicated things. So it's in PyPy, but because Utilitybelt, Scott's really imaginative and creative name, was already taken, and so it's the PyPy listing is cnd-utilitybelt, but the name of the package itself is Utilitybelt. It's not confusing at all.
Can I ask a dumb question? What does CND stand
Computer
for?
Network Defense. As somebody who has taught information warfare at the college level, you should be familiar with all the different forms of CNO, including CND, CNA, and CNE.
Also, is somebody DJing on their microphone right now? Does anybody else hear that, or am I the only one that was hearing, like, it sounded like people were...
Yeah, I heard some crazy noise going on, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. I think you were DJing, Kevin.
What's
I
Kyle
do.
using like a microphone? Like, yeah, maybe it's his beard against the microphone.
That's what I was thinking.
My beard against the microphone.
Yeah, that's it.
That's big.
Speaking of DJing, just because we're wrapping up here, I will let you know I have tickets to another amazing concert tomorrow. I will be seeing... I will be seeing Nelly tomorrow, which I'm not terribly excited about. But along with Nelly, I'll be seeing New Kids on the Block and TLC.
Oh, it's quite a stretch from Rush.
Yeah. I'm having trouble imagining New Kids on the Block and Nelly at the same.
And TLC.
Yeah, but I can kind of see where they can fit with either of those.
Well, they're the bridge. TLC is the bridge that ties New Kids on the Block to Nelly.
You're not going to go burn no houses down while you're out there, right?
No. But I think making a good point that it is kind of a big stretch. That last week I was at Rush, which was awesome, by the way.
Rush is way better than any of the 3 acts that you just listed for tomorrow. In fact, you can combine all of those 3 acts, square their awesomeness, and it's still not as good as Rush.
Yeah, I'm not even judging. I just find it surprising that someone can have such a wide taste, right? So such
You know
breadth.
why that is? You know why that is, Alex? It's because I'm a very wide person. All right, we are no longer talking about code, so this is a good time to wrap it up.
Yes.
Good night, fellow poets.
Good night.
Okay.
Remember, I will be on vacation for like the next 2 weeks, so.
Give me the credentials to your Google account so I can upload new Hangouts while you're gone.
How about you just record it yourself, damn you?
That's
No,
fair.
we need our leader. We need you to guide us on how
I'll
to
talk to you tomorrow about some ideas of how to arrange all this.
All
Good night,
right.
everybody.
Much love.
Okay,
Okay.
bye-bye.
Bye.